Japan described China as an unprecedented strategic challenge in ensuring the peace and security of Japan in a recent national security strategy released by the country's government. But is Japan ready for a potential military conflict with China? Japan has made headlines with its plans to significantly increase its military spending by 60% to 2% of GDP by 2027. This money will strengthen defense capabilities by purchasing new fighter jets, submarines, and advanced weapon systems, including long-range missiles, in response to growing tensions with China. This announcement marks a significant departure from Japan's post-World War II pacifist stance and highlights the growing importance of military power in the Asia-Pacific region. In this video, we will explore the reasons behind Japan's military build-up, including the shock of the war in Ukraine and the current China challenge. We will also take a closer look at Japan's post-World War II defense force, why it's an important player in the region, its partnership with Taiwan, and how its military spending compares to other countries. But before we get into it, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe. We will cover some important and controversial topics on this channel, and your support will really help us with the algorithm. Japan's post-World War II constitution, known as the pacifist constitution, has been a cornerstone of Japan's approach to military strategy for several decades. Article 9 of the constitution renounced war as a sovereign right of the nation, following its defeat in World War II and military dissolvent in 1945. In 1954, the Japan Self-Defense Force, or JSDF for short, was established to defend the country from external aggression while maintaining a strict policy of pacifism, aligned with its pacifist constitution. However, Japan has become more assertive in its defense policy in recent years. In 2015, Japan's parliament passed a law allowing the JSDF to engage in overseas military operations, though limited to non-combat missions. This marked the beginning of a new modern era of Japanese foreign policy, which required expanding the country's military capabilities. Militarization is set to accelerate in 2023, so let's give some more modern-day background. Japan's significance in the Asia-Pacific region is multifaceted. As the world's third largest economy, behind the US and China, it holds immense economic and soft power influence, particularly in Southeast Asia. Although China's GDP surpassed Japan's in 2010, Japan plays a crucial role in keeping China in check, due to its economic prowess and foreign policy initiatives. One of Japan's strengths is its investment projects in Southeast Asia, totaling $259 billion in 2021, surpassing China's investment of $157 billion by almost 65%. Japanese banks lend more to Southeast Asia's 5 largest economies than the United States, the UK, and France combined. This has given Japan tremendous credibility, respect, and influence in foreign policy decisions in the region, particularly in infrastructure investment. Japan's massive construction projects across Asia involve the Manila subway system and the new East-West Southern Economic Corridor that will link Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and Myanmar. These initiatives will promote free trade and enhance connectivity. Japan outcompetes China on infrastructure investment by offering developing countries low interest rates of about 0.25% on 30-year loans, significantly lower than China's 4%. This gives Japan a distinct advantage in the region and further enhances its influence. Japan's decision to expand its military capabilities is a significant shift in its defense strategy. The new policy highlights the need to counter growing threats from regional rivals, particularly China. As tensions between the two countries have increased, Japan has felt a greater need to bolster its military to defend itself and its allies. Japan's defense spending has skyrocketed in recent years, and this surge has almost certainly been fueled by mounting concerns over China's military and territorial ambitions. Some experts speculate that Japan's increased readiness for conflict with China is prompted by the Ukraine conflict. The war in Ukraine profoundly impacted Japan's strategic outlook. It served as a wake-up call for many in Japan's defense establishment, who had grown accustomed to the country's post-World War II pacifist stance. The conflict highlighted the need for Japan to be prepared for the possibility of a military confrontation with China, which has been increasingly assertive in the Asia-Pacific region. Japan's preparations have included a 60% increase in defense spending over 5 years. This has been used to purchase new fighter jets, submarines, and other weapon systems. Additionally, Japan has expanded its military partnerships with other countries, such as the United States and Australia, to better prepare for a potential conflict with China. So, does Japan have reason to worry about China's increasing influence on the geopolitical chessboard? Japan-China relations have been tense for many years, with several issues at play. One of the most significant is a territorial dispute over the Senkaku-Diaoyu Islands in the East China Sea. These are a group of uninhabited islands in the East China Sea that have been disputed between Japan and China for many years. Japan has maintained control over the islands since 1972, but China claims sovereignty over them, citing historical records and geography. The conflict over the islands has intensified in recent years, with both countries ramping up their military presence in the area. Japan argues that the islands are an integral part of its territory and have the right to defend them. On the other hand, China claims that the islands are an inherent part of its territory and has sent Coast Guard vessels and fishing boats to patrol the waters around the islands. The dispute over the Senkaku-Diaoyu Islands is not just about land. The area around the islands is rich in fish stocks and potentially valuable oil and gas reserves, so specific vested interests are at play. Historical tensions also play a role, with many still harbouring resentment over Japan's actions during World War II, particularly its harsh treatment of Chinese civilians. China has accused Japan of not fully acknowledging its wartime atrocities. But perhaps most importantly, China's territorial ambitions and military modernization have been a growing concern for Japan and the wider region. One of the most significant issues has been China's construction of artificial islands in the South China Sea, which are heavily fortified with missiles, radar systems, and other military hardware. These islands have become headquarters for Chinese naval ships and Coast Guard vessels that operate in the disputed waters of the South China Sea. China claims historic jurisdiction over this vast sea, and has used this claim to justify its construction activities. China's increased military presence and more frequent air and sea patrols in the region have not gone unnoticed by Japan. These actions have raised serious doubts about China's intentions. Japan has been closely monitoring China's activities and has repeatedly expressed concerns to Beijing while strengthening its military posture to deter potential aggression. China's actions in the South China Sea have caused regional tensions and raised concerns among the international community. The US, Japan, and other countries have criticized China's activities in the region, calling them a violation of international law. Despite this, China has continued to pursue its expansionist agenda, and the issue remains a significant challenge to regional stability. And then there is Taiwan. Japan's partnership with Taiwan has grown in recent years, which has significant implications for regional stability and relations with China. Historically, Japan has had a complex relationship with Taiwan, going back to the colonial period in the early 20th century. However, there has been a shift towards closer ties between the two countries in recent years, particularly in trade and security. The partnership between Japan and Taiwan is viewed by many as a response to the rising influence of China in the region. Japan sees Taiwan as a key partner in countering China's growing military presence in the East and South China Seas, and has been providing military aid to Taiwan, including the sale of advanced military hardware, intelligence sharing, and joint military exercises. However, this partnership also carries potential risks for Japan. China has repeatedly warned Japan against deepening its ties with Taiwan, and any escalation in the Japan-Taiwan relationship could result in a severe backlash from China. Despite the potential risks, the partnership between Japan and Taiwan could also have significant benefits. The two countries share many strategic interests, including maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific and promoting democratic values in the region. The partnership could help to balance China's growing influence in the area, promoting future regional stability and security. So, what is the cost of Japan's increased military preparedness? As of 2022, Japan's military spending was estimated at around $45 billion. This is significantly lower than China's $200 billion military budget, which is expected to rise in 2023, with an increase in defense spending already announced by Beijing in 2023. Japan has also announced further defense spending and set a target of 2% of GDP by 2025. The target is the same as NATO guidelines, a group with which Japan has been strengthening ties to address shared challenges. Japan's target ratio to GDP will match the UK and Australia's defense spending, but is lower than local ally South Korea's 2.6% and the US's 3% of GDP. But the statement of intent remains. Japan's defense spending has been on the rise for 9 consecutive years, and Bloomberg reports that Japan will increase its defense spending by more than a quarter in 2023 to 6.82 trillion yen, or $51.4 billion, as part of a 5-year program to strengthen its security posture amid these rising threats from China. Late in 2022, Japan unveiled a record government budget of 114.4 trillion yen, or $863 billion, for the next fiscal year, starting in April 2023, with increased military spending significantly contributing to the budget hike. However, affording this goal will take work. Japan's aging population, high public debt, economic stagnation, and challenges resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic will make it politically difficult to allocate funding for military spending. Therefore, Japan's military expansion will come at a high cost. Japan primarily relies on government budget allocations to fund its military build-up. It could also increase taxes or issue bonds to finance its increased spending. However, both options come with potential risks and benefits. Increasing taxes could hurt the country's already slow economic growth and decrease consumer spending. On the other hand, issuing bonds could boost Japan's massive debt burden and interest payments, potentially hurting the country's long-term financial stability. The implications of increased military spending for Japan's economy and international relationships are complex. On the one hand, it could stimulate domestic demand and create jobs, particularly in the defense industry. On the other, it could lead to an arms race in the region, potentially destabilizing the delicate balance of power and accelerating or even triggering a conflict with China, as both countries feel increasingly threatened. So, while tensions between Japan and China have been ongoing for many years, the recent military build-up by both countries raises severe concerns about the possibility of a future military conflict. As always, we'd like to hear from you. What do you think about Japan's recent military expansion, and how do you see it impacting the region? Are they right to be departing from their pacifist stance? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and check out one of our other videos covering the geopolitical Game of Thrones of the largest economies in the world.